again. Whoa! Whoa! Say one more goddamn time.
What is going on, my fellow nerds and geeks? Welcome back to Nerdsplosion, the weekly podcast where, based on a monthly topic, I nerd out about whatever the hell I want. As always, I'm your host, Cameron. How are you guys doing out there? Doing good? Staying hydrated? I can't hear your responses, but I hope it was positive nonetheless. As I stated in a previous episode, the monthly topic for February is love. You know, stuff in movies, video games, personal experiences, anything like that. And I took it easy on the first episode of the month of love by taking a dive into r/Tinder, you know, exposing people's weird DMs and all that, because obviously there's going to be some weirdos on dating apps. Trust me, I'm married to one. But this episode, I wanted to talk about another thing that I'm sure a lot of us have had experiences with, good or bad. Exes. Now, I just want to get this out of the way before I go any further. I am going to be talking about some of my personal ex stories in here. And I just want to say, I don't wish any of my exes ill will at all. I wish them the best in life. I hope they find happiness, whatever it is they're doing. And, I wish them the best wishes in their future endeavors. And if you're a WWE fan, you might get that joke. No, but seriously, I don't wish anything bad on any of my exes. I wish them pure happiness. But that doesn't change the fact that, there are some stories, good or bad. And today I wanted to dive into those. So before I get started with this episode, I just want to tell you guys, I put new episodes up every Saturday, so make sure you tune in for those. And these episodes also go up on YouTube as well. YouTube SuperCam64. So check out the audio version and the video version on the same day. But with that out of the way, let's talk about some exes, shall we? This podcast is brought to you by Anchor FM. In this golden age of podcasting, there are all kinds of ideas and voices out there just waiting to be heard. And Anchor is a free and easy way to start your very own podcast. I use Anchor for this podcast, and I can't recommend it enough. It is very streamlined and easy to use. And did I also mention free? With all of its fancy creation tools, you can easily record and edit your very own podcast right from your phone or computer. And once you're done recording, Anchor will automatically distribute your podcast to apps like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can even start making money as soon as your very first episode. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, that's anchor.fm, to get started. Alright, let's get ready to take a trip down memory lane, more specifically the relationship route. Before I do that, I'm going to need an ice cold Dr. Pepper for this one, so enjoy some Asper as I open this. So before we get down this rabbit hole, I just want to clarify that I am not going to use anybody's actual names, just to protect identities and all that stuff. But I will start from the beginning. Now, I'm not going to share every single relationship story, because most of my relationships didn't end dramatically, so there's really no story to tell. But I will tell a story of some of the more dramatic ones. But to start things off, I suppose I started dating back in 2008, because, high school and dating was like the thing. Like, if you didn't date in high school, you were pretty much a loser. But I was a loser throughout my entire school life, so there was really no difference there. But yeah, it started in 2008. Now, my first girlfriend, we'll call her Lana. She basically we got set up together because she was friends with this group who I kind of got roped into, because high school was actually really weird, because the first day I didn't have anybody to talk to besides people I knew from my junior high. And there was a group of people that just kind of welcomed me into their friend group, and then I met new people through that, and then it just started a chain reaction of getting a friend group. But I was set up with this girl, Lana, and after homecoming, which, by the way, she was my first date, my first homecoming, my first high school dance, and that's also where I got my first kiss, which is sad to say, but like I said, I was pretty much a loser, so, yeah. My first kiss was actually not from Lana. It was actually from a friend of mine who is still one of my best friends to this day. she heard that I never had like a actual real kiss before, and she was like, "Oh, well then come here," and then grabbed me and like kissed me straight on the lips. So I was like, "Oh, sweet. Now I can check that off the list." But back to Lana. Lana was my first like actual like girlfriend, and we dated for a while, and actually became friends with her brother, and we were kind of good together because we were both super awkward people. But yeah, that went for a while, and then eventually, things just got in the way, like distance, and the fact that in high school I didn't have a car. So again, loser. But yeah, that ended eventually because the whole like not being able to see each other thing. So that ended, and then after that, I got in a relationship with another girl from my friend group that I had developed. For reference, we'll call her Alice. Now, we were actually really good friends before that, and we decided to date for a while, and, it was great and all. We hung out pretty much all the time. Eventually, we broke up because there was a lot of stuff with, like, her parents and stuff in her family, and she needed to focus her time on that, so it was like, all right, fine, take the time you need. That's fine, whatever. So then, after that, let's fast forward to 2009. Now, 2009... I dated the girl who gave me the first kiss at the homecoming dance. I dated her throughout the summer, and then, school got in the way, and we just decided that, yeah, right up there. But during that school year, I actually got into a relationship with a friend of that friend, who, for reference, we'll call her Bob's Burgers. I call her Bob's Burgers because her actual name that she was referred to as is the same name as the oldest Belcher child, so you could put two and two together there, but for identity's sake, I'll call her Bob's Burgers. Now, Bob's Burgers and me, we dated for a while, and things were going pretty smooth, until we broke up because she thought I was cheating on her. Now, I will say this right now and here, cheating on somebody is never a thought for me. Like, I can't, like, I've been basically cheated on before, and I cannot think of ever putting somebody else through that. It's just, that's not who I am. That's not me, and that's never been who I am. And just the fact that I was accused of cheating really pissed me off. And she just, like, stuck to her guns, like, oh, you're cheating on me. And eventually I ended things because I was like, wow, you really don't trust me that much? Fine, we're done. End of story. Bye-bye. But little did I know that would not be the end of the story, because this same girl, Bob's Burger girl, would later on, during my senior prom, get upset because I was there with somebody else. Now, my senior prom, I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, so I just went with one of my friends that was also a girl. And we just decided we both didn't have dates, so we were like, oh, cool, let's go together. So we did the senior prom, we're there for a while, having a good time, and she's there with somebody else. But apparently, she saw that I was there with somebody else and got really pissed, even though we had not dated for a while, for like 2 years at that point. And it got to a point where I confronted her about it, and I'm like, are you really still that upset about something that happened years ago? And we argued back and forth, and it started to get really heated, and I ended up, as I was storming off, walking away, I tossed a chair. So there was part of the prom that had like all these tables and chairs and everything, and as I was storming away, I grabbed the back of a chair and I just launched it across the room. Like, I was so pissed off, and all my friends kind of took me aside and helped me calm down. And luckily I did calm down, because the rest of that night was really great, except for one of my friends deciding to have sex with his girlfriend right next to me at the house we were crashing at. But that's neither here or there. I've basically forgiven him for that. I still tease him about it occasionally, but that's in the past. It's a funny joke now. But moving on from that one to the next relationship. Now, I believe this is 2010, early 2010. I started dating another girl who was, friends with people I was friends with. For reference, let's call her Lex. Now, Lex was a huge theater nerd, and she was tall too. She was about as tall as me. I'm like 6'3", so she was almost as tall as me. And that was fun for a while. Like, I thought she was gonna last a long, long time. Like, we had our first date at the Minnesota State Fair, And quickly I found out that Lex was extremely insecure. So we were hanging out at her parents' house one day, and we were just kind of doing whatever. We were hanging out, and all of a sudden she turned to me and tried to leap into my arms, and I was not prepared for it, so I kind of grunted a little bit because I was thrown off. And I was like, oh, whoa. And then immediately, as soon as she heard me, she hopped down, went on the couch, buried her face, and started crying. So I was like, oh, okay, what the hell happened? So I go up and I sit down next to her. I'm like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like,
well, you grunted, so you called me fat.
I was like, the fuck? So yeah, it was constantly stuff like that. And it got to a point where she constantly threatened to break up, and I had to, like, talk her down. And she was very, like, dramatic about everything, and I had to try to talk her down. And she even tried to pull this shit while her and her family were in Hawaii. Like, her and her family were, I think they were at a wedding in Hawaii, and she called me while they were there, and she even tried to break up with me then. And it wasn't until a while after that, after she got back, where she tried to pull the same shit again, and eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm done trying. Like, I'm done fighting this. So that eventually ended. Then I didn't date anybody else for the rest of my senior year, I believe. I didn't date anybody else for the rest of my senior year. It wasn't until shortly after senior year, just some quick fire relationships here. I dated a British girl, actually, that I met at one of my buddies' graduation parties. I dated a girl who was like 2 years older than me, and eventually she broke up with me after dropping me off at home after I fell asleep in her car. But to get to the meat and bones of this episode, I will talk about the last relationship I was in before I met my wife. Now, this relationship was with Alice again. You may remember her from, a few minutes ago when I talked about her. Alice was the one girl I dated back in high school. Now, at that point, we had not seen or talked to each other for a while, and we decided to hang out a couple times and catch up. And one night, things got serious. Like, we were kind of play wrestling with each other, and then we looked at each other and made out a little bit, and then we looked at each other and we were like, do you want to start dating again? And we were like, yeah. So we started dated. We dated for almost 2 years, actually. And towards the end of that second year is where things started to go south. Now, we were in a really good relationship up to that point. Now, some backstory on Alice. She had a kid from a previous relationship, and she lived at the baby daddy's house. So she lived like a half hour away from me, and I had a car at this point. I finally had a car. I had a car for like a year or two at that point, and I would always get her on Fridays. She'd hang out for the weekend, and then I'd bring her back Sunday afternoons. So we hung out for a while, and I would always, I would entertain her kid because, the kid was cute and everything. But towards the end of that second year, like I said, is when things started to go south, because I noticed she was avoiding me more, and she was kind of standoffish a little bit. And what really aroused my suspicions, well, a lot of my friends were telling me that she seemed more interested in this guy, and I was like, oh, they're probably just good friends, because I was a naive, stupid idiot. But one thing that kind of made me super suspicious first was the fact that we were doing her birthday party. We were doing a thing for her birthday, and one of my friends was taking pictures of all of us, so my girlfriend at the time, Alice, would pose with all kinds of people and everything, and she'd smile and everything, and then my friend got a picture of me and Alice, and her expression was very different. Like, she kind of did a half-ass smile, but it looked very reserved and everything, like there was something hiding there, and that was clue number one. Smoking gun number two was one night she was at my place, and I used the bathroom, and her phone was on my sink. So I saw her phone, and I was like, oh, okay, let me, she's probably looking for this. I'm gonna go and bring it to her. So I pick it up, screen turns on. Her lock screen is her kissing another guy. So immediately, I go out of the bathroom, bring it to her. So I was like, the fuck is this? And the excuse she gave me was, oh, well, we were drunk, and it didn't mean anything, blah, 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 blah. And me being the naive idiot I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of dumb back in, like, I was dumb before 2014. Or before 2015, I should say, because the relationship ended towards the end of 2014. What really drove me over the edge was that, I was already suspicious of everything. I already knew she was possibly cheating on me. Which, basically, I don't know if you qualified it as cheating, but the fact that she was interested in somebody else, like she was already emotionally invested in somebody else instead of me. The thing about this is that if she was just upfront with me about the whole thing, about being interested in somebody else and didn't want to be in a relationship with me anymore, that would have been fine. She would have, if she had been just upfront with me from the start, that would have been fine and things would have ended smoothly. But things did not end smoothly because there was one day, the night before, she had borrowed my car to hang out with friends overnight and everything, and I wake up in the morning to my mom at my door asking me what happened to my car, and I was like, what? So I go out to my driveway and my front bumper is completely cracked, like not hanging off the edge, but it's pretty damaged, and I was pissed. So I immediately called her because she had already got her ride back home to the baby daddy's mom's place. So I called her and I was like, the fuck did you do to my car? And she tried to claim that she was parked at Target and somebody hit the car. And I was like, yeah, bullshit. So we had a heated argument, and it actually turned into a string match at one point. And eventually I was just like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm done with everything. I'm done. I can't do this. So we were like, fine, we're done. Hung up. After that came depression, because that was the longest relationship I had been in at that point, and I just felt like, I mean, obviously, even though there was stuff that wasn't my fault, I obviously, in my emotional state and all that, I blamed myself for a lot of what happened. So I fell into a really deep depression. And it took my friends on New Year's Eve and a ton of tequila to bring me back up from that. I know you're not supposed to drink when you're depressed, but being drunk with friends kind of levels that out. So on New Year's, I got really drunk and I was just like, you know what?
Fuck that dude.
So after New Year's, I kind of reevaluated stuff and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try online dating. Because that's something I've never done before. I've never talked to strangers before. I've always dated people that were friends with friends of friends. So I'm just going to try dating complete strangers, and we'll see how that goes. And my ultimate thing was like, if dating apps don't work, maybe I'll try being in a gay relationship, because my thought process in that was like, and I'm technically straight. I mean, I'm slightly bisexual, but I was going to try to be in a gay relationship, because you know what? My thought process of that was, if I was in a gay relationship, maybe I'll be happier. Maybe I'll be happier with somebody of the same sex. But I did dating apps and I talked to a few girls, and eventually I came across a lovely lady named Caitlin, who some of you, I refer to her by her real name because you all know who she is. She's been on an episode before. My wife, Kate. And we talked for a little bit, and we had a lot of common interests. So we had our first date at a Chili's, and then we went to see the first Kingsman movie. And she held my hand during that movie, and we actually kissed afterwards. And there was a little while after where we were continuously talking, and she confessed to me that she was also interested in another guy. So she was trying to, I guess, balance, trying to decide which of us she wanted to date. And instead of being upset about that, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to lose a friend over this. So if she doesn't want to date me and wants to date this other guy, that's fine. I just, I want to be friends. So I was like, all right, that's fine, whatever. So when do you want to hang out next? And apparently she was taken aback by this. So she was like, all right, this guy's different. So we hung out more and more. And eventually that year, and this is 2015, by the way. eventually, more that year, we moved in together, actually, because we were both trying to get out of our parents' houses, and we decided to move in together. Now, it was me, her, and one of her friends at that time, who we'll call Danny, which I've talked about in a previous episode, like previous episode, how she was basically a huge bitch and the roommate from hell who didn't pay her own rent, and basically complained that she was sick all the time. And she would always complain about stuff I did because she has never lived with a guy before. I mean, I technically go by he, they, but that's neither here or there. But basically she would complain about every single thing that I did because I was a guy. And eventually we kicked her out and her brother moved in. And so here's a funny story of how I actually proposed to my now wife, Caitlin. I was talking for a while about, at least to myself and not to Caitlin, about getting a ring. And finally, I couldn't think of anything big to do for a proposal because I'm not a huge extravagant person. So while she was doing dishes in the kitchen, I get her attention. She turns around. I'm kneeling in the middle of the kitchen with a ring and asking her to be my wife. And to my delight, she said yes. So, after a lot of planning, we got married October 21st of 2017. And while there were some things about the wedding that, we could have done without, it was still a really nice wedding, a really nice ceremony. And it was overall great. And at the end of the day, I got to marry my best friend. So that's always a positive in that. And I'm glad I met Caitlin because she's definitely made my life better. But even though now I'm happily married and I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world, I do want to thank anybody I've previously dated and, all my exes, because without them, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't have the experiences that I would have previously missed out on. So to anybody, if any of my exes are actually listening to this and they're not pissed at me, I just want to say, thank you. And I hope you're truly happy in whatever it is that you're doing now, whether you're in a new relationship or not, or just whatever. I just hope you guys are doing well, and I hope, I wish the best for you, and I wish you the happiness that I now have in my marriage. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for, talking about exes. And I said it before in this episode, but I'll say it again. I obviously do not wish any ill will on any of my exes. I wish all of my exes the best in life. Like, I hope whatever it is you're doing in life, I hope you're happy, and I hope you find the same happiness that I now have with my wife. But with that being said, I'm gonna call it an episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you guys have any crazy ex stories, or if you have any crazy relationship stories. Let me know on my social medias. Linktree is in the description, Twitter, Instagram, all that jazz. And also in the description, there's going to be a link to support this podcast directly through Anchor. I'm not going to force you to support this podcast, but if you do choose to support this podcast, it definitely helps me be able to do this better for you. I can afford better equipment. I can actually reach out more to sponsors and actually get this podcast to grow. And you know what? With some extra money, maybe I can give my cat some treats. Who knows? As they're not being fuzzy little furballs, I'm talking to you, Dorian. But yeah, just click on that. There's all kinds of stuff in the description of this episode. Just click there, click everywhere. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys stay hydrated, get vaccinated, accomplish your lives, watch out for crazy exes, watch out for crazy people in relationships. And as always, I will see you guys in the next episode. Nerd out!